The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Dear God, as we hear the weather reports and think about what a bright sunny day it was driving down, thank you for this fresh, brisk day. And thank you for the new friendships that we have made since this new year began. Let us continue to move forward with our goals that we thought of on the first of the year, and maybe through the first week or so of January. And let us think about who sent us here. And what are we doing to realize their expectations of what we will deliver? They are counting on us, and we can do it. We can work together for one Minnesota and do our work for all Minnesotans. With your grace, we thank you. Let us go forward.
Amen. The chaplain for today is Representative Mary Murphy from District 3B, Hermantown, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 91st Session, 2019, 6th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Thursday, January 24th, 2019.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading, House File Number 71.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The Chief Clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 376 through 498.
First reading, House Files 376 through 498. Motions and resolutions. Okay. There are copies of the non-controversial motions and resolutions at the front desk and online. If there's no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. Other motions.
Albright moves that House File Number 70 be recalled from the Committee on Ways and Means and be re-referred to the Committee on Government Operations.
The member from Scott, Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, House File 70 is a bill that was introduced by Representative Kunesh-Podein. It currently resides in Ways and Means, but members, thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker. Members, we are in the process of introducing bills, and they are going to various committees. This is a policy bill. The motion basically and simply just redirects it where it should go to Representative Freiberg, Chair Freiberg of GovOps. That is my motion. Thank you for that clarification. Right now, it sits and resides in Ways and Means.
Representative Albright has moved that House File 70 be recalled from the Committee on Ways and Means and re-referred to the Committee on Government Operations. The member from Hennepin, Representative Freiberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Pardon me while my children are here for the snow day, for those watching at home. I am familiar with this bill. I actually had similar questions about it. This is a bill that will need to go to government operations eventually. And I fully intend to hear it then. It does involve a task force, which has a mandatory referral provision. My understanding is that since it does relate to some public safety issues, that's where it will be starting, but I anticipate that it will be before government operations eventually. So I have already looked into it on this specific bill, so with that understanding, I'm comfortable where it is, and I don't see a need for this particular motion at this time.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, members, I'm aware of the need of the bill to go to government operations, and if it's successfully acted upon going through the process, that's the referral that would be made.
The member from Scott, Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I would refer you to House Rule 4.13, subparagraph A. This is a policy bill. There is no fiscal control. It goes against policy bills going to the policy provision. It's going to Ways and Means, and so now it's going to bounce back and forth and bounce back and forth. How is the public supposed to know where it's to go? If Representative Freiberg, Madam Chair, would yield to a question.
He will. Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Freiberg, in context of what you just said about the bill itself, how would you respond to House Rule 4.13, subparagraph A, with relate to this bill?
Other than by looking at the title, Representative Freiberg.
I would respond to that by saying that rule will be followed. It has to go to government operations, and assuming it goes through Ways and Means, it will go to government operations.
Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And would he continue to yield?
He will yield. Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Freiberg, why would it have to go to Ways and Means first if there is no fiscal responsibility to the bill?
Representative Freiberg.
Thank you, Representative Albright. You might want to direct that question to Representative Carlson. I do believe that task forces do have a fiscal impact. There is also a policy component, and my understanding is the Public Safety Committee has policy. The Public Safety Committee hears policy discussions as well.
Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is exactly what our side of the aisle has warned you against. I will leave it at this for right now, but Representative Freiberg, I think that you would be well served to make sure that your committee hears the bills that it needs to hear and doesn't get tangled up in the other machinations of Ways and Means. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Albright, did you withdraw your motion? Or I'm sorry, did you ask Representative Freiberg an additional question?
I did not, and I do not withdraw the motion.
To the motion, Representative Freiberg? Or are you just standing because your children are in your seat?
My seat is taken at the moment, so sitting is not really an option for me at this point. I guess I would just encourage members to vote no on the motion.
Oh.
Madam Speaker, and I'd ask for a roll call.
Representative Albright requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. The member from, man, I forgot your county, sir. Wabasha, Representative Drzkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, would the Chair of the Ways and Means Committee yield?
He will. Representative Drzkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Carlson, as I understand, those 21 subcommittees that are under you are all finance related. And from the discussion that I heard in Rules Committee the other day, if bills go to you, those that you have the ability to, through memo, bounce bills back and forth to are only limited to those finance committees that are subdivisions of yours. I understand that if it's going to end up in the Government Operations Committee, that has to be a referral from the House floor, which would mean that you, Representative Carlson, to get it to Ways and Means, would have to send it to the House, and then the House would send it back to Government Operations. I understand that to be the correct path, and so if that is your ultimate objective, Mr. Chair, I suggest that you and your caucus support the motion.
Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, I'm not sure if there was a question there or just simply a statement, but I'll assume that somehow there's a question there. If the division acts favorably upon it, it would be referred to the full Ways and Means Committee, and then because it is dealing with establishing a commission, if I recall, that would be referred through the floor here, because we would pass it out of Ways and Means with a recommendation to go to Government Operations. I can't refer it directly to Government Operations from Ways and Means. That would take a floor motion. But that would be, as I mentioned earlier, my intent. I think there's something that people need to understand, both when I chaired Ways and Means a few years back, and when Representative Knobloch chaired Ways and Means in recent years until the change in majority, any bill that has a potential cost of $2,000 or more goes to the Ways and Means Committee. And so I think part of the discussion here is that it's probably a relatively minor cost. I don't happen to have a fiscal note here before me, but even bills that have a minor cost are referred to Ways and Means, and that's probably the category that this one is in.
Representative Drzkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the Chair continue to yield?
He will yield. Representative Drzkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, Mr. Chair, are there particular subdivisions of your Ways and Means Committee that you expect this bill to go to? Which divisions need to see this bill under your purview?
Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, we would make that decision by looking at the various accounts that are under question, and whichever division happens to have that account is where it would be referred.
Representative Drzkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Carlson.
The member from Isanti, Representative Johnson.
Madam Speaker, members, just a little bit of information. I'm speaking in favor of this motion. As past chair of public safety, I heard this bill. It does have a fiscal note. But what can change that fiscal responsibility is the changes done in public safety or in the government operations. They could change the number of members. They could make a lot of changes to that bill, and then it would have to go back to public safety and Ways and Means in order to figure out the cost. This bill needs to actually start in government operations, and that's why I believe that's where we need to send it right now.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, members, I would ask for a red vote on this motion. If you look at section 2 on the back page, lines 4.15 through 4.19, there is an appropriation. The dots need to be filled in. Ways and Means is the correct committee to do that in. And you've heard the commitment from the Chair of Government Operations that will be heard there. And if this bill were to come back to the House floor with a task force or a board created, and that bill was not heard in Government Operations, I would move or agree to any motion that would send it back to Government Operations in order for it to be heard there. So the process is working the way it's supposed to. I appreciate members of the Minority Caucus for pointing out and trying to demonstrate the process for the bills moving. I think it's helpful to all members to follow it, but I don't think it needs to move at this point in time, and I would ask you to vote against the motion.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 52 ayes and 72 nays, the motion does not prevail. There's a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Albright moves that House File Number 285 be recalled from the Committee on Ways and Means and be re-referred to the Judiciary, Finance, and Civil Law Division.
The member from Scott, Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House File 285 is a COSNIC bill that relates to the Met Council as well as data sharing with DHS. This bill affects government data practices. It should go to civil law, but right now it's residing in Ways and Means. Members, this is a policy bill. We need to follow the rules that are set out in 4.16. This bill is a policy under the jurisdiction of a policy committee. That's where it should reside, but before it goes to Ways and Means. Members, let's follow the process. Representative Winkler, I appreciate your comments on this. Let's follow this. Do it in the steps that people understand. Let's take care of the policy part first, moving on to the fiscal. And I would ask for a roll call, Madam Speaker.
Representative Albright requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Discussion. The member from Hennepin, Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, it's the same basic arguments that we just concluded. I would encourage a red vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
In other words,
Did you sign up for my ERA bill? Would you like to?
we'll give it some time.
The clerk will close the roll.
Who
said that?
Heard off. Won't sign under my ERA bill.
There being 52 ayes and 70 nays, the motion does not prevail. There's a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Zerwas moves that House File Number 390 be recalled from the Committee on Ways and Means and be re-referred to the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Reform, Finance, and Policy Division.
The member from Sherburne, Representative Zerwas, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Members, House File 390 is actually the same House File 390 from the last biennium. By happenstance, the numbers just worked out. What are the odds? So, House File 390 is the protester bill to increase criminal penalties for blocking a freeway, blocking the light rail, or blocking access to the airport. This bill was heard on this floor and passed. This bill was heard in the other body and passed last year. Unfortunately, the man in the corner sent a little letter and it went away. But we're back. And members, for an inexplicable reason, this policy bill with no fiscal note, no costs at all to the state of Minnesota, has been referred not to the Public Safety Committee, but to Ways and Means. And so we don't think it belongs there, members. And so the motion is to move the bill to the Public Safety Committee.
Discussion. The member from Isanti, Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Would Representative Zerwas yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Dowd.
Thank you. Representative Zerwas, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. This is a policy bill. It's the same bill that we've heard in the chamber before last session, and there is no cost, no fiscal note to the bill. Is that correct?
Representative Zerwas.
Madam Speaker, members, Leader Dowd, you are correct. You heard me correctly. This bill, this exact language was passed by this body, by the other body, and went through the entire process. The pathway last year, members, was for this bill to be heard in public safety, referred to the General Register, and then taken up on the floor of this House, debated and passed with no fiscal note and never needing to be referred to Ways and Means.
Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative Zerwas. I thought that's what you said, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it. Would Chair Carlson yield for a question?
He will. Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Chair Carlson, if you could just, and maybe you've said this and I'm missing it, but why are we sending policy bills with no fiscal cost to the Ways and Means Committee? And I know, normally, trust me, I know the Speaker is the one that refers these bills. But the reality is we're sending policy bills to the Ways and Means Committee, which has not been the history of this chamber. We usually send them to the policy committees where they get heard, and then they come back and we pass them out. And maybe they'll go to more than one policy committee, but and I'm a little bit concerned about your schedule. If you're going to be hearing all these fiscal bills and policy bills, we're not going to have a lot of time to get bills done, and especially since we're not doing omnibus bills anymore. But Chair Carlson, could you just tell me why we're sending policy bills to the Ways and Means Committee?
Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, the bills under discussion do have potential costs. I indicated in earlier comments that under both Republican and DFL control in the past, a bill, even with relatively minor cost, $2,000 or more, goes to Ways and Means. Now, the bill that's the motion is before us, if I recall correctly, and it's been a while since we had the floor debate, but I think it increased penalties, if I recall. And that would be a revenue issue, and therefore it would go to Ways and Means, if I'm recalling correctly, but it's been a while since we had the debate.
Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would Representative Zerwas yield for a question?
He will. Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Zerwas, Chair Carlson, maybe he didn't hear what you just said, but I'm pretty sure that you said twice now that this bill doesn't have a fiscal note, and we know that because it's the same bill that was in the chamber last year, and there was no fiscal note. And I assume we asked for a fiscal note if there was going to be any increase in cost. Representative Zerwas, could you shed a little light on what might be going on? And I see Representative Carlson is listening intently over there, so maybe he missed what you said. No fiscal cost to this bill. This is literally a policy bill. Is that correct?
Representative Zerwas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I'll try to project. Members, this bill last year went through the process. There was no fiscal note created in either this body or the other body. The bill itself does not create any felony level crimes, and so it does not have an impact on our state penal system. It has an impact on county jails only, as the maximum penalty is a gross misdemeanor. Members, this bill is absolutely not a fiscal bill. This bill does not belong in the Ways and Means Committee. The Ways and Means Committee was not part of the bill path or trajectory. Actually, it wasn't the path of this bill the last two sessions when it passed off this House. It certainly wasn't the path last year when it passed off of this and the other body prior to it being vetoed by the governor. So there is no cost to the state to this bill, as the previous two legislative sessions have confirmed.
Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative Zerwas. I feel a bit like a marriage counselor here. Would Representative Carlson yield for a question?
He will. Representative Dowd.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. Chair Carlson, pretty firm words that this is a policy bill. It sounds like maybe there's just been some misunderstanding and this thing was headed to Ways and Means. Somebody made a mistake, that's okay. Now that we know that there is no cost, and that's been reiterated now 2 more times, can you support this motion to just send it to the policy committee where it belongs?
Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, the short answer is no. And, the previous session isn't binding on this particular session. When that bill is given a hearing, there will be a request for a fiscal note. And that's when we will answer the question this biennium as to whether or not there is a cost. I don't think we're necessarily bound by the previous biennium and an interpretation then. I don't know, Representative Dowd, whether or not there even was a fiscal note requested in the previous biennium. But at any rate, we will be requesting one as part of the hearing process, and we'll see if there is a cost, and we'll respond accordingly. So I would encourage a no vote, Madam Speaker.
Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. There's been a lot of talk and consternation about whether these rules are going to provide the kind of transparency that the public wants. And I got to tell you, here now we're sending policy bills to the Ways and Means Committee. I appreciate Chair Carlson's commitment that policy bills are not going to go through the new process and they're going to come back here to the floor when they get referred to policy committees. I did hear that very clearly today on the floor. I appreciate that commitment. But by this point in session, members, we would have a memo from the Speaker and Majority Leader on when committee deadlines are. Right? We're past that point where we would know, hey, how much time do I have? How many committee leaps do I need to make? And, you start going to committee chairs and telling them how nice they look and how funny their jokes are, trying to get a hearing on your bill. That process is well underway. But we still don't know when the deadlines are. And do you know why we don't know when the deadlines are? Because we can't tell, according to the House rules, if any of these bills. Do you know that when a bill gets to the Ways and Means Committee, it by definition has met deadline? And the Senate now is unsure if they can even set deadlines, because the House may have just exempted every bill in the House from having to meet deadlines. And I'm not going to assume, because that's the history of this chamber, that we have enough respect for each other that we don't assume that people on the other side of the aisle are doing something for some certain reason. But I'll tell you that the public is going to suspect that, right? And the Senate is having trouble figuring out how do we negotiate deadlines when it may look like every bill in the House has already met deadline because we've just sent them all to the Ways and Means Committee. And the trouble is the public's having trouble following any of this. I've heard some stories, maybe I don't know if they want to speak to him or not, but already huge trouble on members of the public trying to find bills and how long it's taking to get engrossed copies of bills. This sort of stuff doesn't help. I mean, we're sending, believe me, I assure you that somebody in this chamber didn't support Nick Zerwas' bill last year. Was it your bill? Yeah, I assume, probably a really great piece of legislation. I apologize, I shouldn't assume. But I assume that somebody did, right? Somebody didn't support that. And I assure you that if somebody didn't support it, they would have made, raised Cain about a fiscal note. That somebody was trying to move a bill through the chamber without a fiscal note, right? We've had those conversations on this floor many times. The reality is they didn't. Why? There's no fiscal cost to this bill. It's a policy bill. We know that. This bill has history. It's been through all the committees. It was voted out of this chamber last year. It's a policy bill. We know that. We don't send policy bills to the Ways and Means Committee. Or do we? We are. Why? Why are we sending policy bills to the Ways and Means Committee? This is that new process that the public can't follow. It's not a good practice. And I want to know when the deadlines are. I got a whole stack of bills on my desk that are going to get introduced this week and next week. And I'm going to try to get as many of those through the process as I can. And by the way, if I tell you you look nice and your jokes are funny, it's very sincere. Chairs. These are really good bills that deserve hearings. And I'm going to work it fully. But I need to know when those deadlines are, right? As do all the other members of the chamber. But we can't set deadlines because we can't even figure out how our bills, how the rules apply to our own bills. This is really easy to fix. Let's just go back to the way we've done it for 150 years, and the public can follow, and the staff can engross bills, and they can, the public can see the draft of the bill online in an orderly amount of time, and everybody can follow the process. We're used to it. Let's stop playing three-card monte with these bills and sending policy bills to the Ways and Means Committee. I'm disappointed that we know it's a policy bill. It's been reiterated on this floor 3 times. I could ask him to yield again and ask him one more time about fiscal notes and why this thing didn't have a fiscal note last year. But he already told us 3 times. We know why it didn't have a fiscal note, because it's a policy bill. And what happens to policy bills in this chamber? They get referred to policy committees where they get heard. And that policy committee will work on all the issues in that bill under their jurisdiction. And if there's multiple jurisdictions, it goes to multiple policy committees, and then it comes back here and we pass them out. We don't need to send bills to committees that they don't need to go to. Those are extra steps, and it's going to make it difficult to get our work done in an orderly fashion. It also makes it very difficult for the public to follow the process. So now Representative Zerwas is at a disadvantage. He doesn't know when the deadlines are because they haven't been set yet. So he's scrambling, but he's worried. Is it your bill? Yeah. But he's scrambling. He's trying to get a hearing on his bill, and I don't know. I don't know if the bill's even going to have a hearing in Ways and Means. It certainly doesn't need to, but they have possession of the bill now. So we've sent a bill to a committee. That committee has possession of a bill. They do not have anything to do with that bill. They don't have policy jurisdiction over anything that's in that bill, and there's no fiscal cost to the bill. But there the bill sits in committee, and we have a member who just happens to be from the minority, who just wants his bill to go to the right policy committee so he can start telling that chair how funny their jokes are and try to get a hearing on his bill before a deadline that we don't know yet. Do you see the problems? What if we just send every bill to every committee? Would we get our work done? No, you can't. Let's just send the bills to the committees they belong in. Let's let those members work really hard to decide whether the bills are good or whether they should be amended, and pass it out, move it on to the next committee. Let's get them back here to the floor, and let's pass them so the Senate can do their work. Let's not send bills to committees they don't belong in. And this is your opportunity to say, hey, we made a little mistake. We referred the bill to the wrong committee. Let's send it to where it belongs. Thank you, Representative Zerwas, for the motion. Please vote green on the motion because it's the right thing to do, and this isn't a partisan issue. and we shouldn't have so much pride that we can't admit when we were wrong. Let's just send the bill where it belongs. And if that chair of that committee wants to kill the bill, that'll be their prerogative. But we don't need it sitting in a committee that has no jurisdiction or no reason to have the bill. And nobody has stood up on this floor and told me that it should be there or belongs there. Because it doesn't. Let's just fix the problem, let's work together, and let's start getting the stuff done that needs to get done before the end of session. Thank you. Vote green.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, members, first of all, I think that the comments from Representative Carlson were that we should err on the side of caution and that we shouldn't spend money unless we're doing it on purpose, which is why we have a Ways and Means Committee. And so being careful that we're making sure that this bill doesn't inadvertently spend money without our knowing it is a purpose for it being heard in Ways and Means. Second of all, the committee to which it is being referred is a division of Ways and Means. And so, I'm sorry, the Ways and Means division that will receive it is a division of Ways and Means, of course, and so all the policy issues can be sorted out there. If there's a fiscal cost, it can be found out in the Ways and Means Committee, and then it can be re-referred from there. So I don't understand where the confusion is about where this bill's path is or why it will go there. And Representative Zerwas, I am surprised that you would want to hasten this bill's arrival in Representative Mariani's committee. Where I don't know that it's going to do so well, but if you want it to go there faster, that's what this motion would do. But I appreciate members creating the opportunity for a discussion on the floor about how the rules work. I think it will help everybody as we go along to better understand basic rules of the House and motions and where bills go. So I would ask for a red vote on the motion. There is a lot of talk and consternation, but it is primarily from people who already know the answers to the questions. So I would ask for a red vote.
The member from Blue Earth, Representative Considine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I sat in the Public Safety Committee, and we did bring this up repeatedly that there was a cost, and we were overruled. And so just because you refused to recognize for the last two bienniums that there was a fiscal cost doesn't make it so. There are increases in penalties. There would be some unfunded mandates going down to the counties. And we asked for a fiscal note to make sure that there weren't, and we didn't get it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The member from Olmsted, Representative Quam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. And almost exactly 8 years ago, this humble farm boy was a freshman, and the esteemed and powerful chair, at that time Representative Holberg of the Ways and Means Committee, came to me and said, you know, there was a mistake. Your bill's got to be heard in Ways and Means. And so I had a discussion with that powerful chair, a humble freshman, and said, you know, no dollars are spent in this biennial, the biennial budget. And we talked about the bill, and that powerful chair listened, was thoughtful, and said, you're right. I don't have to hear this in Ways and Means. And the bill didn't have to go there. And as a freshman, it was nice to see the chair of maybe the most powerful committee listen and give due deliberation and realize that they didn't have to go through the extra work of hearing my little bill because they didn't need to. And I think that all of us should realize that when we have a discussion and we listen, sometimes there's logic in that discussion from the other side. And sometimes we should stop and say, you're right. Things will work better if we do it that way. And so I would just, ask that we think about what is the logical way to help this body to work the most efficiently and effectively to do the people's work. Thank you.
The member from Freeborn, Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I stand in support of this motion that's on the floor. And I would also like to share an experience that I had this weekend just with the difficulty the public is already having with the process that we have set up. And we are about the public. That's why we're here. And this whole process that we have set up needs to support our public and be something that they can use. I had constituents who had questions about Representative Hornstein's hands-free bill, which I support, by the way. And that bill was actually amended with a delete all amendment last Tuesday. And the constituents had specific questions. I tried to direct them to that bill, and I found out that it hasn't even been engrossed. It was finally today, but it wasn't available online for the public to look at. And it wasn't available online for me to refer to either, because I didn't have my notes back with me when I was at home. So members, we have to make sure that this is a user-friendly system for the public. It is not. They deserve that. So again, I stand in support of the motion, and I stand in support of a system that the public can use. Thank you.
The member from Isanti, Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I don't like to stand a second time, but some new information did come up, and I appreciate Representative Winkler calling to all of our attention that this bill will get referred to one of the subdivisions of Ways and Means. So this bill now will stay in that new process, if it were to move forward. And I'm not going to assume that it's not going to get a hearing, but Zerwas, your bill's dead. This thing's got about as much chance as I do to be prom king here in this chamber. And the reality is, this bill now, according to, and I do appreciate, Chair Carlson, that you made a commitment that this bill, not this bill, but a previous one, would bounce through the floor if it went to a policy committee. But there's a lot of policy committees that are within your structure. And if a bill bounces in your structure now, you can just do that by memo, right? So I do appreciate Representative Winkler standing up and telling us that this bill is just going to get referred within that structure, because what I just said now is true. This bill has met deadline. This bill has met deadline. And by the way, and I appreciate Representative Considine standing up, and maybe he forgets how things work around here. We don't send every bill to Ways and Means, and yes, sometimes a fiscal cost comes up on a bill when we didn't really expect it to. And what happens is, it then gets referred to Ways and Means from one of those other committees. But we can't assume that every bill has a fiscal cost, especially the ones that we know don't, and just send them all to Ways and Means. And then let them bounce around in this new process within Ways and Means without ever coming back here to the floor. And I'm going to repeat what I said. This bill, by definition, has met deadline. And this is why, this problem right here is why the Senate and the House can't agree on deadlines. Because the Senate can't figure out which bills would even be affected by setting deadlines. So let's not forget that we're causing problems beyond our own chamber here. This is a bad idea. The rules are a bad idea. This whole thing's a bad idea. And this is all process stuff. What happens when a member of the public can't find a bill? That's the real problem. And that's what's been happening every day since we put these new temporary rules in place. And if you want, or you don't, please don't shake your head no, because I want to go home. Because if you shake your head no, I'm going to make my members start standing up and telling you about their constituents that can't find bills. And they've all got stories, and we'll be here all night. So please don't shake your head no. Just look sternly at me. You can disagree, okay? But the reality is, this is a bad system. And this bill now has met deadline, and the Senate can't figure it out, so they're not negotiating or getting to resolution on when our deadlines should be. So all the members of this chamber don't know how much time they have before they have to cut through the tape at the end of the finish line. Nobody knows. Because this bill's met deadline. This one's alive. And it's not this one I'm worried about. This one's dead. All right, I'm not an idiot. Despite what you may think. This bill's dead. Sorry, Representative Zerwas. But there are going to be a lot of other bills, just like this one, that you want to live, that are going to meet deadline just by being sent to Ways and Means And that's going to be not only the fiscal bills. Remember, I remember the first day you promised us when we adopted these temporary rules, you promised us that, oh, no, none of these bad things are going to happen, and this is just fiscal bills. The policy bills are still going to work under the same process. And here we are sending policy bills to the Ways and Means Committee. Do you remember that conversation on the first day when we were promised, oh no, policy bills are still going to go to policy committee. This rule only affects the finance bills. Do you remember that? You can shake your head yes if you want. I don't think you're listening. But you should listen because this stuff affects your constituents. And you are going to get a call from your constituents saying, I can't find the bill I'm looking for, and I don't know what committee it's in, I don't know where it's headed, and I don't know when the next hearing is. And I hope you have an answer for them. Please, Madam Speaker, can I get a roll call on this?
Representative Doubt requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call.
So a green vote is in favor of transparency, so you can tell your constituent that at least on this one bill you got it right. A red vote is to play three-card Monty with every bill in the chamber now, policy and fiscal, and good luck explaining it to your constituents.
Discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 52 ayes and 72 nays, the motion does not prevail. Announcements. The member from Polk, Representative Keel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would Representative Moran answer a question, yield a question?
She will yield. Representative Keel.
Representative Moran, Chair Moran, what I would like to know is I see in our list of bills, House File 400 is the opioid bill that we discussed on Friday. By the way, we had an excellent hearing with that group, and much was revealed and great discussion and lots was heard. But my concern is this is going to be heard, I believe, on Wednesday, which is awfully rapid before we would be able to bring any amendments forth. And more importantly, the people that we heard that said distinctly, we want to be heard, probably wouldn't be able to see this in this quick manner. And just the question is, would we be able to push this off a week so that they would have time to see the bill and be able to come and testify?
Representative Keel, that is not a proper issue for discussion under the business announcements. The member from Fillmore, Representative Davids.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I do have an announcement to make. Former State Senator Dwayne Benson passed away yesterday, and the visitation will be Thursday, January 31st at 9 to 11 at the Bethlehem Lutheran Church in Lanesboro, Minnesota. The memorial service will be at 11 o'clock a.m. at the Bethlehem Lutheran Church. When I was first elected in 1990 and won, my state senator was Dwayne Benson, whom I served with until 1994. And to think, as I look back, to think of the honor being able to have Senator Benson as my mentor. Of course, he was kind of a local hero. He played in the NFL for 9 years. In a little trivia, he made the opening tackle, Super Bowl II. If you'll remember, we usually, when we'd visit, we didn't talk about the outcome of that game. But he did make the opening tackle in a Super Bowl. After leaving the Senate in 1994, Dwayne Benson worked for the Minnesota Business Partnership, Just to give you a little bit about his character, they had a very strict rule that you had one term at 5 years. Well, they renewed his contract, and Dwayne Benson served the Minnesota Business Partnership for 10 years, and then went on to work for various not-for-profit organizations that really concentrated on early childhood education. Dwayne Benson is survived by his wife Melissa, his children Jesse and Brooke. He had a great love for the state of Minnesota, and I hope we can remember in this house, on this house floor, Senator Dwayne Benson.
Members, please rise for a moment of silence for Dwayne Benson. Announcements. Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Council on Asian Pacific Minnesotans is having an open house for legislators. It'll be held this Wednesday from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. in Suite 160 at the Centennial Office Building. It's an opportunity for all of us to get to know the Council. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Announcements. Representative Keel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A point of inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
So if my question wasn't relevant in announcements, when would that be?
During the committee hearing. The member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3:30 p.m. Thursday, January 31st, 2019.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourn today, it adjourn until 3:30 p.m. Thursday, January 31st, 2019. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The House is adjourned until Thursday, January 31st, 2019 at 3:30 p.m.